Preacher Episode 3 Possibilities. So I'm sorry that this is such a late review for this one. Normally I'd do it at least on like Monday or Tuesday, but E3 was this week, so I've been pretty much doing all the gaming stuff, so I apologize for this review being so incredibly late. But I like this episode. It's oddly enough, I was surprised by this, but this was the first episode we got an actual opening for the show. So that actually really shocked me. Unless it was in the last one, which I watched on an illegal site, so I didn't see it. But that surprised me. It was the first episode we got an opening, so we have our like official cast members, and now that they've done that, I kind of know who's gonna live because there were some characters I was like, who's gonna be like really important, and we have like kind of our big three characters, but who else is gonna show up? So we got a couple of clues in this one, and one of them I didn't understand until later in the episode because there's one scene where someone's holding a gun in their mouth. I'm like, I have no idea who that's supposed to be. And then that scene ended up happening in the episode. I was like, oh, well, now I know he's like a main character. And going through this episode, we actually got a couple of interesting points. Like the end of the episode, I was really surprised by because Cassidy figures out that we find out that officially these guys are clones, and we also find out, I was assuming that the guy wasn't lying, but that they're angels of some sort, clone angels, I guess, maybe. But at the end, when he realizes that they're not actually trying to kill him, he stops. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and he's actually decides that he's going to help them out, especially because when he realizes that the power within Jesse is what they're looking for. It's like, okay, I'll help you guys get that. You leave my buddy alone. You don't kill him and rip him apart. You just get this little thing, somehow contain it in the coffee can, and then you'll be on your way. Everything's fine. So I'm assuming that's not going to play out exactly the way he expects it to, where he delivers Jesse to them and then they extract it and then it's done. So we'll have to kind of wait and see about that. Another little clue that they had in the opening was, I think it was like the last name, or it was close to the end. They have the guy, I'm pretty sure this was the guy who was in the flashback, because they show the tree by itself and they have a random name show up, and I'm like, that has to be the guy that was in like 1818 during the last episode. And I looked a little stuff up, so and I won't really get into that, but the way they're doing that, I'm assuming, I was like, okay, he's gonna be a main character, so either we're gonna get some more flashbacks, or maybe he's an angel too, and they just made it seem that way. I mean, based on what we saw in this episode, if they are really angels and from heaven, they can't teleport. Clearly, they have to drive the same truck all the time, so they can't hop all over the place. So he could be an angel, and he really had to like ride the horse through the desert, every time. So that could actually be the case. He could have been an angel, and then maybe he'll show up later on. I would assume he will because his name showed up. So might be flashbacks. I would assume it's not because I feel like he's got either he's dealt with the madness before, or somehow he's a part of it. Like I mentioned before, like maybe he was taken over at some point, but he beat it or whatever. But he's in there, so he's gonna show up again. But the little stuff that they have, we got Cassidy working with the guys, deciding to work with the clones at the end of the episode. We also find out about a new character, Carlos, who is basically the reason that Jesse kind of went back to becoming a preacher, because they had like their final mission, and he took off and he left Jesse and Tulip behind. And so this is what Tulip has kind of been working towards. That's who she's looking for. She's been doing all this crazy stuff, and as she put it, it's not, it was for justice. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm very excited for that. I thought for sure, because when Jesse first saw the note and he knew what she was talking about, he went with her, and then he had his moment with the one guy whose name I don't even care to remember because I just don't like him. But he has that moment with him, and he almost has him kill himself. And I guess he realizes like, holy crap, that this might go a little bit further if we end up meeting Carlos again. So he backs off, and I guess he just walks back home because he was like, I'm not gonna do that. And it's the middle of the night, and he just walked away. So he went with her at first because it was just like he took off, and I'm really curious if they actually got busted after that, because the alarm was going off and everything. Jesse killed a cop, and of course Tulip was there as well. So they're like in this back alley, and he takes off, leaves the two of them, and I would assume they didn't get busted, especially considering that didn't seem like it was forever ago. I would think Jesse would still be in prison if that were the case because he killed a guy. So I'm guessing they escaped, but that guy has a lot on the or they have a lot on him, like a lot that they want to make up for, and he took all the money and left them for dead because they could have easily died in a crazy shootout or just gone to prison for the rest of their lives, especially Jesse. So there's some craziness going on there, but I'm sure we'll see Carlos at some point. I don't know if I doubt that he'd somehow make his way into town, but who knows? Like, who knows how that's going to play out? But I like that idea. They added a new element. We got to actually see what this mission was that Tulip wanted Jesse to go on. It was not like, oh, it's just another random case. This is to get Carlos, who basically left us for dead. So, we know really where her drive is, but she doesn't want to do it without Jesse because they were both betrayed. She doesn't want to do that, just on her own. So, excited to see more of that. We got actually, we got quite a bit of the guy with the broken arm in this episode. And the funny thing, I totally forgot to mention this in the last episode with him, working for the guy. I forgot that I didn't realize that that was even him. Like, I thought that was a totally different character because he looked so different to me, and like the white outfit and everything. I thought that was a totally different guy in the last episode until they actually talked about it. I was like, oh, that's that guy. I thought that whole sequence was about the boss and not about him, but I was totally wrong. I was paying attention to the wrong person. But he had a lot in this episode. He had, of course, he had the broken arm. He talked to his son. It was like, whatever you hear and stuff like that. Of course, like the boy, I thought he was going to try to hit the boy, but it's like, he's trying to basically tell him, like, oh, it's nothing. Like, I love your mom and all that crap. And I thought he'd have a moment where he talked to the bus driver who's still having, I guess, having his issues or whatever, because he talked to the little girl, which is also a weird scene because he talked to her, and then the other girl, the second girl was like super sassy, like I was like her 900th day or whatever, and I think she said something about him being a pervert or whatever, something like that, and I thought they were gonna have a conversation because of course he's like, what happened to you, and I thought he was gonna say, the preacher, and I thought that's what would lead the guy to actually kind of go nuts a little bit, but they call him Bunny Man because of the sound he made. So that's it's funny that spread from the bar. So that means that all the adults in the bar were calling him the Bunny Man because he made that high pitched noise. It's like, man, that spread to the little kids. So everybody in town knows about that. So he had a pretty messed up episode. He's got one arm, and so his boss, like, right hand man, and doesn't even have a right hand, so he's upset about that. And just little things throughout the episode piss him off. I don't know how he found them. Maybe he followed them. Like, I don't think there was a scene that really established how he found them at the gas station, but he shows up with his gun, and of course, Jesse, like, I don't even know what he was in that scene. It was just really awesome. It was kind of funny, though, when he was like, you put the gun down, or he was like, I'll make it seem like a suicide. That way people don't have to know I beat. I think he said that I beat you like a bitch 2 times, or something crazy like that, and it just made me laugh. And so he's gotten like full control of his power in this episode. I mean, he utilizes that in a negative way at the end, and it's clear, which they kind of hint at early on in the episode when he's talking with Cassidy, and he's having him hop and say little stuff here and there. But you can tell that the more he uses it, in the short span of time, the more control it has over him. Because when he was doing it with Cassidy, he was telling him the box, and he was like faster, faster, and then he was like and fly, and he was just saying stuff that he wanted to see, and he was doing that as well at the end of the episode, but he snapped out of it, fortunately, and he kind of screwed up a little bit because he freaked himself out, so he just was like, he left and was like, get out of here. But I was like, he really should have said, like, don't ever come after me, and maybe, don't remember this, or something like that. But it was just like, put the gun down and get out of here, and that's it. So, of course, he's going to remember that. The guy's going to remember that for sure, because he noticed, as he was about to hit him, he's, like, stopping. His arm is just, like, stuck in midair. So he knows, what happened. Like, he basically hit me with some crazy mind control. That's not gonna leave his brain. Like, that's gonna be there now. So that I don't know how he's gonna kind of use that to his advantage, because he knows he has to be really careful. Like, hey, I can't do anything I want, because he could tell me to do anything he wants. So he might take a different route next time if he decides to, go back at him. He might be too freaked out with, the crazy mind control thing. But based on his character, I assume he'll be back and he'll still be really mad and he'll want to try to, take out Jesse. So we'll see, how that plays out. But Jesse's getting control of his power. We have it with the girl early on, and I figured as I was watching, I was like, you know what, they probably did it where she opened her eyes and nothing else happened. And of course, as I was thinking that is when, the bed was lifting up and she just falls, forward. And I was like, yep, she opened her eyes, but, she didn't wake up. And maybe he freaked out, just like he did before, because he was clearly, the first scene he was in, when Cassidy was talking to him, he was just sitting there like freaked out in the silhouette style and stuff, and he like does the dramatic lean and everything. So he's clearly freaked out that she actually opened her eyes. So he might go back, and that's what I'm curious about. Like, if he'll go back and try to tell her to consciously, wake up and not just, open her eyes. Because of course he said that, and maybe he didn't. I'm curious if he even realizes how specific it is, because he talked about, I think it was this episode, he kind of recognized, like, okay, this is what happened to the guy from the first episode. And he was like, he said to open his heart. And he told the girl to open her eyes, and that's all she did. And when he was talking to Cassidy, he was like, sing me some Elvis. So that's exactly what he was like, me some Elvis. So I don't know if he's recognized how specific he is, or how specific the commands, are actually followed, because he could say something vaguely, but, or he'll say it in a certain way, like, or basically tell me, what's happening, and someone will say what's happening, instead of saying this is the event that is currently happening. So he might have to look out for that if he hasn't really recognized it just yet. And considering how things have gone, I don't know if he did or not. I think he did, because like I said, he mentioned the guy from the first episode. So I think he recognizes that it is very, very specific. But he still needs to be a little bit careful with that, because he doesn't have complete control over it. But I certainly enjoyed that. Him having the control over his power, seeing where that goes for sure is going to be one of the cooler things of the series. And then we have, of course, Tula wanting to get the full revenge on, Carlos, whoever the guy is, and then having, I love that that's happening right now, of course. And my windows are completely closed, and that's how loud it is outside. But going through this episode and having Tula, kind of announce that they want revenge, and that's kind of how they separated, and then having Jesse control his powers, having Cassidy realize that the two guys are actually clones, and that was the first thing he came up with too, was like clones. At first I thought it was like, oh, so he knows that clones are real, that's like a supernatural thing, and he just figured it was like a government thing. So I guess it's still not super common, but he's a vampire, so I guess it's kind of like, oh, clones, yeah, I'm a vampire, they can be clones, that's not that crazy to him. I understand why he wasn't shocked by that. Although I love that scene, because he didn't realize it was them. And when he he runs up, which was also a crazy scene, they did all this stuff, it's like, no surprises, they got battle gear on, and they got, assault rifles with the little grenade launcher attachments on the bottom, all this extra stuff, and gear, everything, they're all geared up. It's like, alright, let's do this, no surprises, we get in, we get out, and then he runs them over with the truck, and they die again in like 2 seconds, and then, he has this whole moment where it's like, hold on, like, I killed you guys, how'd you do that? And that was just really funny, man. I love that scene. And him going to the crematorium was funny too, because his outfit apparently now during the daylight, which they even have in the trailer for the next episode, is him in like a Chinese farm hat and basically wearing a poncho, because he'll roast alive, so he has to wear the hat and like wrap himself up. So I love that scene. I thought that was actually a really, really funny seeing him, because he had to go on and do that, otherwise he had, 2 bodies on him. So I love that scene, because it was just funny. Like, that's how he's going to look, at least for now, until maybe he'll get, another jacket or something, and maybe get some gloves, because he has, like, the jacket, it seems like it would cover up, most of his body, but, maybe it's not enough or something. I'm not really sure, but I think just get something and then get some gloves. He should be fine. He'd still have to wear the hat because for his face, but everything else, I would think he'd be fine. And just make sure he has like really long shirts so there's no space in between if he like stretches or whatever, something random. But I just thought that was a funny little scene. I definitely enjoyed the episode. I'm excited to see where they go, as far, how far they're gonna go with Jesse's power because he's learned it. It still controls him more than he controls it. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And of course, Cassidy working with the clones and whether or not they really are angels, because the guy says we're from heaven. So I assume that they really are angels, or if they're not angels, there's something created by God, just repeated over and over again. Maybe not angels, just something special from heaven. But enjoyed the episode. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know how you guys think this collaboration is going to work between Cassidy and the clones. I mean, that's just what I'm going to call them at this point. They're the clones. So I want to know how well you think that'll play out and if they'll remain partners. Because I feel like something's going to go wrong. And then, you know, they might realize at some point they can't do the little coffee pot thing. And it's like, we have to just kill him. And I think Cassidy's going to choose Jesse over them. It's like, I wanted to help you because, you know, you just wanted to extract it. No big deal. But now that you know you have to kill him, I can't really just go through with that because he's my buddy. So I think that's how it might play out. Maybe we'll get a couple episodes. Maybe it'll just be the next episode. That'll be the whole episode. Is them trying to extract the thing. Maybe they'll knock Jesse out or something. And then they realize, like, we just got to cut him open. And Cassidy's going to be like, well, that doesn't work for me. So I think that's how it'll play out. He'll help them until they realize we have to do the kind of chainsaw deal. And then he'll kind of have to keep killing them every episode again. But I certainly enjoyed this one. Like I said, though, want to know what you guys thought about it and what you guys think is going to happen with this team up. So please comment below and let me know. And thanks for watching.